Part 129. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1290. Latest website. After a press conference, Lu Feng felt that he had finished boasting all his reputation in his life. After the press conference, Lu Feng immediately asked Zhu Lidong to press the goods for dealers and hand over a share to the market in a very short period of time. Explosive results. Workers in the factory work in 3 shifts, and the assembly line does not stop at all. The formerly deserted wilderness has now become a bustling place with busy traffic. Trucks of all types are often lined up on the road at the entrance of the industrial park. The indiscriminate publicity from various media made all the children in the streets and alleys know about giddy mobile phones. Everything was going on in full swing, and Lu Feng suddenly received a call. "I arrived in Xiangjiang, but I didn't expect you to go back to the mainland to make mobile phones. The company is developing well and making a profit across the board. United Securities is also doing well. After all, you are a person with connections in the mainland, and you have attracted so many large companies to list in Xiangjiang. As for me, I have been back for a few days and checked the accounts of United Securities, and I also called the head office to inquire. I'm very satisfied with the development of the company. By the way, I heard about your little wife, right? Mr. Zhang, I'm in Xiangjiang recently. I'll have a chat with her tonight. You've been making a lot of noise in the media lately, right? What if tomorrow? If you don't come to Xiangjiang, then I will help you become popular in Xiangjiang." Lu Feng frowned when he heard this and said in a deep voice, "Are you threatening me? Let me tell you, the more you act like this, the more you will get nothing. Stop dreaming about spring and autumn. Then let's give it a try." Su Yorong smiled and then hung up the phone. In the evening, she handed the child to the nanny, then sorted out the documents and made sure that all the documents she brought were copies, and then she dialed Zhang Fengxia's number. "Who is it?" Zhang Fengxia answered the phone and asked. "Mr. Zhang, I don't know if you know me. My name is Su Yorong. Are you at Mr. Lu's villa now? I'll go over there and let's talk in person." Su Yorong said straight to the point. "Do we have anything to talk about?" Zhang Fengxia frowned and said, "If you have something to do, you can go find Lu Feng. We don't know each other. But you are now a part of this family. Don't worry. I'm not here just to show you some things. I'm here to show you something. We are all grown up, so everything is based on reality." Su Yorong said calmly, "Things always have to be solved. It doesn't mean that if you just leave it alone, nothing will happen. I came to you to solve the problem." After Zhang Fengxia heard these words, she felt that this person could still communicate. It would be best if she could be persuaded to leave, so she agreed. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Su Yorong's car drove through the gate of the villa. She stepped into the living room of the villa and saw Zhang Fengxia on the sofa. She looked up and down for a long time. In terms of appearance and temperament, Zhang Fengxia was indeed good, but in terms of aura, she was losing too much. Zhang Fengxia was also sizing her up. She was 1.7 meters tall and looked very tall with high heels. She was wearing a black dress underneath and an azure-colored windbreaker on the top. A retro top hat, even if a top model is standing next to it, probably won't win much. "The living room is a little cold, let's go to the living room." Zhang Fengxia stood up, feeling that she was a head shorter than her, and said, "It's not suitable to wear high heels at home. Let's change to slippers. I'm familiar with this house. The floor is made of marble flown from the UK. It's not that fragile." After saying this, Su Yorong walked towards the living room. Zhang Fengxia felt a little unhappy, but she didn't say anything and followed her in. As soon as the two sat down, Zhang Fengxia asked, "Tell me, what do you want? Let's all be honest. You have worked so hard, what do you want in the end? Do you think I want money?" Su Yorong stared at Zhang Fengxia and said, "Don't you feel the same way? I am different, I am love. Are you love? Then I can be love. Which one of our two loves is noble? Which one is low?" Su Yorong stared at her and said, "I think we are equal, even if Zhang Xiaoyan is sitting here. Morally, I am absolutely not weak at all, so you don't have to feel morally superior to me." Haha, Zhang Fengxia laughed twice and said, "I haven't been in Xiangjiang for a long time, but I have heard of your reputation. In the financial industry, you are considered to be outstanding. There is no need to act like a good woman in front of me. You know as much about things in the business world as I do, right? If you want to market and promote your own business, you need constant communication. Besides, if you are good looking and close to some big guys in the industry, it is inevitable that there will be gossip. If the media is fanning the flames and say that I am a frivolous person, then I think you will not be much better if you put a beauty like you in front of the public. If you don't believe it, we can do an experiment. You can try to manage United Securities for a year or two. Besides, with a young talent like Lu Feng around me, why do I still need to commit myself to some old man? You two have misunderstandings about me. These misunderstandings all come from the mass media. I can understand it. Lu Feng knows what kind of person I am. But he doesn't welcome you either," Zhang Fengxia choked. "He doesn't welcome me just because he cares about your emotions. You should think about it carefully. How would you react if he agreed to let me enter the house? I have always thought that you are a smart person, but now it seems that you are average. It's just a temporary solution. Do you think he can get over this son? Even if the 30-year-old Lu Feng doesn't care about this son, what about the 40-year-old? What about the 50-year-old? Su Yorong smiled slightly, leaned on the backrest and said with some disdain, "When you two can't control him, when you force each other to leave and he is no longer indifferent, what kind of scene will it be? What happens between us? We must not simply think about it with emotions, let alone understand it from a personal perspective and wishful thinking. Families must have emotions, but they also need to check and balance each other." Zhang Fengxia was thinking about her words. Even though she was reluctant, she felt that what Su Yorong said made sense. Su Yorong saw that she was no longer as arrogant as when she first walked in. He took out a medium-sized folder from his bag, put it on the table and said, "I'll show you some information. This is my equity in United Securities, there is still 20% left, and that share is the Hurricane Capital equity I hold, 40%. Zhang Fengxia frowned as she looked through the information. How did she control so much equity in Hurricane Capital? "I'm showing you this just to tell you that even if I don't enter this family, when the child grows up and does a paternity test, as long as it is confirmed that it is his child, he will be able to legitimately divide the inheritance. As a mother, will definitely support his son on the board of directors. I still hope that some things will be resolved early and not left to the next generation. By then, everyone will be in their 70s and 80s. It will not be good to come out and cause trouble in the city." Zhang Fengxia frowned as she looked at the information. She couldn't understand why Lu Feng asked her to invest in so many shares. She put down the folder and said, "It's still early by then. Maybe it will be bankrupt by then, or after multiple rounds of financing and share expansion, you are no longer qualified to be on the board of directors. So I have thought of it a long time ago. The detailed terms include restrictions on dilution of equity. The minimum dilution of United Securities is 20%. Afterwards, dilution will not be accepted for financing and share expansion. Hurricane Capital is 15%, and even if I want to throw away this shell, start over, and put existing industries into it, I'm not afraid. There are corporate-related regulations in the terms. As long as it is Hurricane Capital's existing business, any external divestiture needs to be reviewed. As long as it is found to be an asset transfer, I will have 15% of the equity. The last trace of confidence disappeared from Zhang Fengxia's face. She stared at Su Yorong and said, "How could he agree to these terms with you?" "Because he is confident and feels that he is sure to win. As long as he does not pay dividends, sooner or later I will be unable to bear the risk of selling." He wrote a clause on the internal digestion of the equity in Hurricane Capital's prospectus, which means that it can only be sold to him. Su Yorong said with a smile on his face, "This is called fortune-telling, a blessing in disguise." Zhang Fengxia shook her head, took a deep breath, and said for a long time, "I have to admire you. You have 9 twists and turns in your mind. I am afraid that if you enter this house, in less than 10 years, we will have to kick you out. We are different. You are the daughter of a rich family, and I am a wild dog from a mountain village. My journey to where I am today is not as simple as you think. You have to prepare multiple escape routes for yourself. As for what you are worried about, I don't think it is true." Su Yorong said to her, "It's good for you too for me to enter this family. I know Lu Feng too well. You two alone can't check and balance him. You can't just listen to all the things he says. Now promise, do you believe it, he will have new flowers and plants outside in a few years. Even if he keeps his peace, there are still many people who pounce on him. These women are not flowers in the greenhouse, and they have many tricks, so they need to be checked and balanced. The family is also a small society. When a person has absolute power in the family, that means he is absolutely free. When you meet Zhang Xiaoyan, tell her for me that the 3 of us can definitely put this ferocious beast like Lu Feng in a cage. Otherwise, you two will just wait to be kicked out. That's all I'll say. I'll give it to you in the end. There is a motto, love is based on material, and material will make people equal, balance the 3, and lead a happy life." Su Yorong knew that she wouldn't get the answer she wanted tonight, so after speaking, she stood up, took the folder over, and then left. Zhang Fengxia sat there blankly. The amount of information tonight was indeed a bit large, and she couldn't digest it for a while. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1291. Latest website. This is how people are. When you are ready to have a big argument with the other party will reason with you, and you still feel that what the other party said does make sense. My original intention was shaken, and I didn't know who to target with the energy in my heart. I felt indescribably uncomfortable. Zhang Fengxia went upstairs to call Zhang Xiaoyan and wanted to discuss the matter. Judging from the series of information Su Yorong gave, it was basically impossible to completely separate this person. In terms of business, she had already Lu Feng was tied up to death. It was difficult to separate the child from his family. Lu Feng is still in the factory. Today is the 2nd day of sales. The entire factory is in full production. Zhu Lidong, Du Guoying, and Liukan are all present to deal with product problems, sales problems, freight problems, and after-sales problems. One time. All after-sales services are set up in the capital cities of each province. The products have been put on sale, but 2 after-sales agents have not yet been set up. Because the prices for purchasing goods are different, the dealers in these 2 places are getting angry. They are just asking for the goods at a price of 2,350. Is it interesting to block us at this time? Lu Feng looked at Zhu Lidong with a gloomy expression and said, "If you don't get used to these problems, just call and tell us. If they don't provide after-sales service, the dealer's contract will be cancelled directly and they will be recruited from the market. Now is a critical time, I'm afraid it will affect sales." Zhu Lidong was a little embarrassed. These dealers are all connected privately. If we take a step back, they will all unite to lower the price. Lu Feng lit a cigarette and said, "Are you trying to unite with me and let us share the profits? It's too late now. Starting next year, if I don't establish a direct sales system, I will go down." When Zhu Lidong saw that Lu Feng had made up his mind, he immediately asked the vice president next to him to make a call. Nowadays, there are many cases of dealers joining forces to suppress manufacturers. These dealers have become middlemen, eating up consumers and eating up manufacturers. It's getting late. Let's go back after finishing this matter. We'll talk about it tomorrow, Lu Feng said slightly tiredly. At 1 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng returned home. Duo was already asleep. Zhang Xiaoyan was lying on the bed without any signs of fatigue. After washing up, Lu Feng returned to the bed and looked at her eyes as bright as light bulbs. He said, "Still not asleep yet? You should pay more attention to Duo recently. This child has completely entered puberty recently and seems a bit twisted. I noticed that the teacher also called me twice and said that I was quarreling with people at school. In the past 6 months, my personality has changed." I said that I was still childish and like a child at home. Zhang Xiaoyan took a deep breath. He said in one breath, "You go to sleep, I can't sleep. How are the sales of mobile phones?" "Forget it, there are 2 dealers who are messing with me. We have just dealt with it. We cannot completely rely on dealers for channels. We must have our own direct sales channels. This is what we will focus on next year," Lu Feng said about the company's affairs. After chattering for a long time, he found that Zhang Xiaoyan didn't speak. "What's wrong?" Lu Feng reached out and hugged her over, asking, "Why are you unhappy? Did Duo make you angry?" "No. Is it still a child problem? Go to the United States after the new year and take a look there. Didn't I tell you before? Your problem is not a big one. You have cultivated yourself well in the past 2 years," Lu Feng comforted. "That's not the case. Don't make me guess, I'm tired enough this day." Lu Feng sat up and looked at her and said, "Then I'll work overtime, let's have a good time." "That's not it," Zhang Xiaoyan said with a slight sigh. "I knew it was this when I heard your voice. After all these years, no one knows who." At 2:30, Lu Feng had already fallen asleep. Zhang Xiaoyan was still unable to sleep as she lay beside him. She quite agreed with what Su Yorong said, but Zhang Xiaoyan was unwilling to let her into this home. Originally, the 2 of them thought that Su Yorong would be their rival. Who would have thought that Su Yorong would position herself as a helper? In fact, Zhang Xiaoyan was not that awkward about Su Yorong coming in. She was herding a sheep and shepherding a group of sheep. Zhang Fengxia was very rude to Su Yorong on the phone. She believed that Su Yorong would never be allowed to succeed, but the 2 of them had no specific countermeasures. The only confidence they had now was that Lu Feng agreed not to let Su Yorong enter the house. But what about in a few years? Zhang Xiaoyan wants to have a child of her own more and more. She went to the hospital in Beijing more than a month ago for a checkup. The doctor thought she was recovering well, but if she wanted to have a child safely, it was still recommended to go there. In the United States, take good care of it before buying it. December passed by in a flash, and the small turmoil among the dealers aroused a lot of public opinion in the industry. Even if the last 2 dealers relented, Lu Feng still replaced them without hesitation. 1998 has passed. This year has passed so fast that people have no time to react. Lu Feng feels that he has not done much. He has been busy fighting floods all summer. He has held meetings one after another on his mobile phone, ranging from styling design, internal motherboard. Lu Feng is basically involved in the entire process of supplier procurement, dealers, etc. During this period, we also need to pay attention to the semiconductor industry. This year, hurricane capital has become one of the world's top leaders in wafers, and international pressure has become lighter. The cooperation with AMD has attracted the attention of many manufacturers. Breakthroughs in more than a dozen core patents in research and development, various types of the product has officially completed iteration, and 4 batches have been delivered through centralized procurement. In the last month, good news came from Giddy mobile phones. In the first month of its launch, under the bombardment of advertisements, sales exceeded 100,000 units in a single month. Banners were hung up in all major sales stores to promote it. At the same time, some manufacturers are using various methods in private, including attacking and smearing, asking their employees to buy them, using unstable current to damage the motherboard and then asking for after-sales service. Some even pry open the store at night and pierce the speakers and earpieces with needles. It's just that Lufeng no longer needs to deal with this kind of competition. Throughout December, mobile phone manufacturers were bombarded with advertisements. At the same time, any problem with giddy mobile phones would be caught and amplified by rivals, followed by headlines. Dealing with these emergencies was enough to keep Zhu Lidong busy. Du Guoying frequently participated in various activities to promote giddy mobile phones, while Lufeng no longer appeared, and the two of them were solely responsible for promoting giddy mobile phones. In mid-January, Lufeng went to Tianjin for a meeting, mainly to discuss the semiconductor research and development and sales situation in 1999. This time, basically everyone was present and inspected the factory for a day. Lufeng also briefly looked at various iterative products. Compared with many years ago, the progress is very big. At the meeting, Lufeng set our U0026D expenses at $130 million. According to Hurricane Capital's overall profitability, the gap this year will not be too big. In addition to catching up in cutting-edge industries, these expenses include various types of chips. At the end of this year, Hurricane Semiconductor has reached cooperation with China Unicom and China Telecom, and will produce 2G mobile phone cards for the two companies. Compared with chips and storage products this year, the best-selling products were panels, accounting for 35% of profits. The core chip business accounted for less than 7% of total profits. Last year was an important year for Hurricane Semiconductor. This year we ended our losses, all products were iterated, and we have caught up with the world's best in processors, storage, communications, digital decoding, wafers and other products. At the same time, we have cooperated with many companies around the world and established talent transfer plans with 25 domestic universities. We have 11 R/U0026D centers around the world. The number of R/U0026D personnel has officially exceeded 5,000, and we have reached cooperation with many overseas manufacturers. This year's progress is due to the continuous accumulation in the past. I also hope that everyone will continue to work hard in the new year. LCD screens will be put on the market this year, and various products will continue to advance. We hope that during this year, our net profits can completely cover our research and development expenses. There was a round of applause. At the meeting, Lufeng also requested to work hard to promote the joint R/U0026D center with Sharp and Rome, striving to launch it this year, and set goals for major projects. After so many years of hard work, Hurricane Semiconductor has finally matured. Looking at the thick year-end report in front of him, Lufeng felt quite pleased. Currently, Hurricane Semiconductor has the capabilities of independent design, independent research and development, and independent manufacturing. The capabilities are not possessed by any domestic manufacturer. And most of them are self-developed patents. If it is said that the domestic chips will be able to choke domestic chips in many years, it will only be software and hardware such as EDA and lithography machines. However, when Lufeng held a meeting in Beijing last year, he mentioned company support for chip design software development, circuit design software, photolithography machines, etching machines, and other related companies. After the meeting, Zhang Ruhing found Lufeng and asked, "Mr. Lu, is this year's R/U0026D budget for wafers too small? Currently, the 8-inch product has just been put into mass production. The company's funds are really tight. Let's consolidate the 8-inch product first," Lufeng replied. After speaking, he looked at him and understood what he was thinking. 12-inch wafers are what all companies are chasing. We have finally caught up, so we can't relax. I also understand the company's financial situation. He sat down and seemed a little hesitant. If you have anything to say, just say it. I don't mean that I must put the interests of the company first, but also the interests of the industry. Lu Feng had heard Liukin say before that when he went to meetings, he would advise the leaders and establish large semiconductor funds, state-led investment, and hope for industry classification. To prevent one company from doing all the work, firstly, it is a monopoly problem, and secondly, after the industry division of labor is clear, it is more conducive to overall development. Semiconductor is an industry with division of labor and cooperation. I want to leave Hurricane and become a company that specializes in wafer manufacturing and cultivate the industry. When such companies start up, they can also support Hurricane Semiconductor, Mr. Zhang said frankly. Lu Feng nodded and said, I support you. If there is a need for funds, I can personally invest. By the way, I will give you a name. Let's call it SMIC. This name is very good, he said with a little surprise. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1292. Latest website. After Zhang Ruhing left, Lu Feng always felt that he had changed a lot, but in the end he found that the wheel of history was still rolling forward and no one could change it. Su Yurong waited for more than a month, but Lu Feng still didn't give her any reply. She was unwilling to wait any longer. During this period of time, Su Yurong communicated frequently with Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan. She understood one thing very well, that is, if she wanted to enter this family, these two women were by no means rivals, they had to be teammates. Su Yurong knew that Zhang Xiaoyan was soft-hearted, so when communicating with her, she always talked about how hard she had been in the past. They both had similar roles in their original families, and they resonated with each other on many topics. Su Yurong knew how to avoid some ask tough questions and find common ground. For a time, her relationship with Zhang Xiaoyan became very close. When dealing with Zhang Fengxia, she tried her best to discuss future risks, especially in the direction of relationships. Su Yurong knew that Zhang Fengxia cared more about Lu Feng. If Lu Feng was uncertain to her in the future, then she would not. I am so sure that there will not be a third or fourth person. If she shows her ability and can prevent the appearance of a fourth person after joining this family, Zhang Fengxia will naturally be willing to accept her. To put it bluntly, Zhang Xiaoyan is an emotional person. As long as she speaks well and changes her heart, she can handle this person. However, Zhang Fengxia cares more about winning or losing emotionally. Su Yurong's desire to join this family ultimately relies on ability. She needs to show her ability. I have enough abilities, and this ability is useful to everyone in the family. Su Yurong joined this family with the mindset of investing in a stock. She wanted to get on board with this rapid development train. In mid to late January, Lu Feng received a call from Su Yurong in Xiangjiang. What do you want? I'm telling you, don't think too much, you won't get anything, Lu Feng said dissatisfiedly into the phone. The baby is 5 months old, it's time to give him a name, Su Yurong asked calmly. What's the name, Lu? Lu, your mother, Lu. Did you get my consent? Are you acting like this here? Let me tell you, the more you act like this, the less likely it is. Do you want to know why? You lied to me, you are forcing me make a choice, Lu Feng said solemnly. Lu Nima? This name doesn't work. You should think about it carefully. As for the deception you said, it does not exist. The child has been born. No one can turn back time. Instead of getting angry here, it is better to think about how to solve it. Su Yorong said calmly, "Did Zhang Fengxia tell you?" "What did you say?" Lu Feng asked. "It seems that neither of them told you that you come to my villa and I will talk to you." "I think you are a calm person," Su Yorong said to the phone. "I am now in a problem-solving attitude. If you don't want to solve it this way, then I have other ways." "I'm not going." "You can do whatever you want." Lu Feng hung up the phone directly. Lu Feng stood up and walked to the balcony. He looked at the ebb and flow of the sea water not far away and took a deep breath. He knew that Su Yorong could not enter this home. Zhang Xiaoyan was his spiritual world and Zhang Fengxia was love. So Su Yorong is a pure realist. Entering this family, there are only two outcomes in the future. Either everyone can find a balance point and become bigger and stronger together, or she can control the whole family by herself and kick out her family members one by one in the future. In Lu Feng's eyes, Su Yorong is not a suitable person for marriage. Her ambition and desire for control are much stronger than those of Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan. Once such people gain absolute power, they will suppress others. There is no limit to what can be done. The next day, Su Yorong registered the name of her child, Lu Jiaran. At the same time, she also made appointments with several media outlets to conduct exclusive interviews with her, mainly telling what happened to her as a strong woman in the financial field last year. This interview was 1998, named after financial queen Su Yorong. Facing reporters, Su Yorong said that she encountered the Waterloo of her life this year because she fell in love with a man and gave birth to a son for this man. As a well-known financial woman in Hong Kong, when choosing between love and career, she still chose love. However, this love gave her a fatal blow. The company was occupied and she had no choice but to move away. Lu Feng now does not recognize herself at all, let alone recognize this child. Su Yorong not only told about his own 1998, but also about Lu Feng's 1998. He was developing rapidly, and the sales of Giddy mobile phones were rising steadily. He chose career between career and love. Facing the camera, Su Yorong's eyes were red, and she took the tissue from the reporter's hand with a slight choke. "Do you regret it?" the reporter asked. She cried and shook her head and said, "When the child was born, I felt that nothing was a problem. As a mother, I was very happy, but I couldn't accept that the child lost his father's love just after he was born. 1998 was really a year for me. It's a year of surprises and joy, and I hope he can take on the responsibilities of a man." "Do you hate him?" the reporter asked. Su Yorong thought for a while and shook his head. "I don't hate it, because last year was the most important year for the development of Giddy Mobile and the entire Zhifeng capital. He did a lot of things. I can understand that he didn't care last year he passed me, but now that I'm back, he's still like this, and I don't understand." The interview lasted for an hour. Su Yorong revealed everything about Lu Feng's family, including the two women in the family, the son he gave birth to, how much equity he currently holds in United Securities, etc. The day after the interview ended, this matter exploded in the Hong Kong media. These things within wealthy families are what reporters in Hong Kong like to report the most. For a while, the melon eaters were divided into two groups. One group scolded Su Yorong, thinking that she was shameless because she already had two women and she still had to give birth to children. One group scolded Lu Feng for saying that such a rich man could not even shoulder this responsibility. What people didn't expect was that Giddy Mobile made headlines, and the headline was that Lu Feng was too lazy to care about the pregnant strong woman and was too focused on it. Looking at Giddy mobile phones, some people even joked that Giddy not only connects the world, but also leads to the world of strong women. The sudden outbreak of public opinion was completely uncontrollable. It spread from Xiangjiang to the mainland in 2 days, and reporters almost opened Lu Feng's phone calls. Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia didn't know how to resolve this matter. During this period of contact, they felt that Su Yorong was a good person. At least they couldn't bear to publicly insult Su Yorong. Lu Feng was so forced by public opinion that he almost couldn't do anything. Even so, he still refused to let go. The worst he could do was cancel all his work schedules and stay at home, or find a place with few people to stay. Su Yurong naturally expected Lu Feng's reaction. She knew that Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan would not make many moves before there was an absolute sense of crisis. The new year is coming soon, and Su Yurong has no intention of celebrating the new year. She wants to give this plan the final blow. As long as this trick works, Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia will let Su Yurong in even if they fall out with Lu Feng. Of this home. In the villa, 7 slim girls stood in front of Su Yurong. A woman in her 40s next to her said with a smile, "Mr. Su, these are all top-notch beauties. Their average height is 1 meter and 72 meters. Regardless of her three-dimensional or temperament, she is enough to participate in Miss Hong Kong." Su Yurong looked at the few people, nodded with satisfaction, and said, "My request to you is very simple, that is, in the next few months, find a way to seduce Lu Feng, the chairman of Hurricane Capital, and who can talk to him. The reward is 50,000, if the relationship is ambiguous, I will give you 200,000, and if we have sex, it will be 1 million. As for the contact opportunities between you, I will provide you with his itinerary. You can enter the high-end places he can go to. Do you think you are qualified for this job?" The 7 girls looked happy. This is definitely the easiest job they have ever received, and the pay is definitely generous. They all know in their hearts that if they really want to hook up with Lu Feng, it will cost 1.8 million. Asked for money. For a while, 7 people agreed, but they asked to pay some money first to buy clothes and jewelry to decorate themselves. Su Yurong was not polite and directly gave them all the basic salaries of the 7 people. Lu Feng has been in the headlines throughout January, and giddy mobile phones have also become a hot topic. Anyone who talks about the recent lively events will always talk about the owner of giddy mobile phones. If we look at communication capabilities alone, the current giddy mobile phones are definitely winning. Zhu Lidong is extremely happy about this matter, and even secretly instructs dealers to hang banners in stores, or train sales staff to buy giddy phones. You can marry 3 wives by talking on your mobile phone. On February 1st, 8 days before the Chinese New Year, Lu Feng couldn't stay in Xiangjiang anymore and ran back to Shenzhen. This time, Lu Feng's parents did not call him, but bought a plane ticket and rushed to Shenzhen. When people saw Zhang Fengxia and their little granddaughter, they kept feeling curious. "Didn't you bring that little grandson here?" Lu Feng's father asked. Lu Feng looked a little unhappy when he heard this, and Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia also looked a little unnatural. "Where did the little grandson come from? Isn't the granddaughter pretty good?" Lu Feng saw Duo standing aside, leaning on the table and not speaking. She was already a grown-up girl, staring closely at Meow Meow. "Besides, my eldest granddaughter is already so old, and you didn't even ask me a question when you came." Duo seemed a little aggrieved, turned around and went directly upstairs. The old couple felt that the atmosphere was not right, so they hurriedly changed the topic. This year's Chinese New Year was destined to be a lively year. Lu Feng went upstairs and found Duo in her study. "This is the first time your grandparents have met Meow Meow. You have been seeing Meow Meow since you were a child." Lu Feng patted her shoulder and said, "Be patient and don't take it too seriously. After the Chinese New Year, Dad will take you shopping and buy some good things." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1293. Latest website. Duo's height has increased a lot recently, and her whole person looks less immature and more mature, and Lu Feng can feel that her mind is becoming more and more sensitive. When Lu Feng saw that she was silent, he asked, "Tell Dad, what do you want?" "I want you to get out," she said with a straight face. "Okay, I'll listen to you." Lu Feng stood up and walked out. After a while, Lu Feng wanted to come in to see how she was feeling, but saw a piece of paper posted on the door that said no strangers should be allowed in. Lu Feng sighed and went downstairs helplessly. After dinner, the TV in the living room was playing a popular science program for mobile phones produced by Gitty. The program was quite good. It started with the development and application of electronics, and would add a few sentences in between. Gitty mobile phone advertisement. Zhang Xiaoyan has to be busy with Huaxia affairs, and Zhang Fengxia also has to arrange matters with the investment department. Mao Tai is preparing to seek listing this year, and Zhang Fengxia has also been in contact. She originally planned to arrange it in Hong Kong stocks, but some equity issues in Mao Tai are a problem, so she chooses to take a look at a shares. After the two left, the mother looked at Lu Feng and asked in a low voice, "Where is the one named Su now? Is the child following her? I read in the newspaper that the child's name is Lu Jiaran." Dad looked at Lu Feng nervously and wished he could see his grandson now. "Mom, let me say this once, just this once. I will handle my affairs myself. You can give me advice, but you cannot control it. My family, life, career, and love are all my business alone. When I need it, I will ask for your help. But if I don't say anything, I hope you won't get too involved," Lu Feng said to the two of them seriously. "What you said, can your parents still harm you? You are so old, and with such a big family business now, you must have a son and an heir," my mother said emotionally. "I care about you for your own sake." "Good. Enough." Lu Feng suddenly stood up and yelled angrily, and said to the two of them, "Those who are celebrating the new year, I have thought about staying here and don't want to go back to my hometown." After he finished speaking, he rushed upstairs. His parents were stunned on the spot. Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan heard the noise and walked out of the room. Lu Feng's mother was already in tears. Her son, now with strong wings, said a few words in a row. Neither of them listened, and the two of them started making a fuss and wanted to leave. The bedroom door was knocked open, and Zhang Xiaoyan walked in and said, "Why are you so angry? Is there anything you can't talk about? Now the two of you are making a fuss and want to leave. Let's go. Send him off overnight, charter a special plane to send him back," Lu Feng said solemnly. "You," Zhang Xiaoyan frowned, feeling that he was a bit unreasonable, so she turned around and went out. The two elders cried and howled for a long time. When they saw that Lu Feng was really going to send them away, they immediately felt cold. They packed up their things and left overnight. Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't persuade them. At about 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, Lu Feng paid a lot of money to buy a plane. Sent the two back to their hometown. It was already 3 o'clock in the evening when she got home. Zhang Xiaoyan sat in the living room and sighed, muttering, "He is becoming more and more impersonal." Zhang Fengxia glanced at the door of Lu Feng's room upstairs. She actually felt that Lu Feng was not necessarily wrong. It was difficult to get rid of this kind of love bondage from her parents if she hesitated. Zhang Xiaoyan was entangled in it. When Lu Feng faced when the time comes, he breaks all the ties without hesitation. He will not accept kidnapping from anyone, even if his parents face him, they still need to respect his opinions. But doing so would appear to be heartless and morally reprehensible. Go to bed early. Actually, that's good. Otherwise, based on his parents' requirements, Su Yorong would have entered this family soon, Zhang Fengxia explained. In essence, Lu Feng was still maintaining the status of the two of them in this family. Zhang Xiaoyan thought about it and felt it made sense, nodded and went upstairs to rest. The next afternoon, Duo fully charged her mobile phone and ran out of the house to make a call. "Have you decided what time to buy the ferry?" Duo asked on the phone. "Okay, then I'll go to a classmate's house tomorrow afternoon. Let's go together then. If Xiao doesn't want to go, we can't go. The four of us are enough. You all bring enough money." Duo discussed on the phone for a long time before finally hanging up and going home quietly. Lu Feng has no time to pay attention to Duo. Now it has entered the intensive New Year greeting time. Various cooperative companies have to move around. At the same time, downstream supporting companies also want to have a meal with him. In the few days before the New Year, Lu Feng will spend most of his time in the capital, having dinner with leaders of various departments. To promote the establishment of SMIC, he also hopes to become a shareholder and promote the establishment of photolithography machine manufacturing companies. Only when the entire industrial chain is completed can Hurricane Semiconductor gain a foothold in the world. Lu Feng also has the intention to invest in advance, especially strategic investments in companies that have not yet been established, such as Northern Huachuang. There was only 1 week left before the Chinese New Year, and Lu Feng suddenly received a call saying that Duo was lost and could not be found. Lu Feng immediately called the police and asked the Shenzhen police to help find the person. Local TV stations and radio broadcast the missing person notice immediately, and he also contacted the parents of several classmates who ran away with Duo. After many searches, I finally contacted one of my classmates. He told his family that he was in Xiangjiang and that they ran away together to watch a certain Stars concert, which was the last one this year. When Lu Feng received the call and heard that the person had been found, his heart finally settled in his stomach. In the past 20 hours, he had used all the connections he could use and called everyone he knew. Help, keep an eye out. Now that he was in shock, Lu Feng wanted to go to Xiangjiang and slap her. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng received a call from Su Yorong, saying that she had received a lot of calls and that the children were all fine and just wanted to come out to play. Once you play, let him not get too angry. Is it delicious? Su Yorong asked. Duo nodded and said, my dad brought me here to eat. Several of her classmates nodded like they were pecking at rice. They had never eaten what they were eating tonight. Do you like that star? Su Yorong said very gently, Auntie happens to know him. If you stay in Xiangjiang for a few more days, Auntie will take you to meet him, have a meal together and take a photo with him. Don't go back for the time being. Your father is angry and can easily get beaten. Thank you, Aunt Su, Duo thanked her. Su Yorong's communication with several children was completely different from that of her family. It was not just education, but starting from their interests, such as what celebrities they liked and what they had done. These few people quietly established a star-chasing group in the class. They were all from the tribe, and Su Yorong joined the tribe that night. After buying tickets for several classmates, Su Yorong took Duo back home and played with Lu Jiaran for a while. The two watched TV for a while and chatted, maybe because Su Yorong made her feel more comfortable and I vomited out all the words in my heart, and talked about how I often couldn't see my father since I was a child. She also talked about the attitude of her grandparents towards her. Duo has grown up and is very considerate, but she is careless at home and does not show it. Lu Feng can see her twice a month, which is considered diligent. I know I was brought back, Duo suddenly said while sitting on the sofa. Who did you listen to? Su Yorong asked in surprise. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I heard them say at my grandma's house. Everyone in the village said that I am not stupid. Besides, I look nothing like my parents, Duo said with a sense of grievance. Su Yorong stretched out his hand to hug her and comforted her, but your dad has always been very good to you. He will give you everything you want. When Auntie comes into the house in the future, Auntie can take you to play, so be nice, take the high school entrance examination, and as long as you're not too bad after graduation, my aunt will send you to go to university in Europe. I have a way. Duo has changed a lot in the past few years. Not only did Lu Feng not notice it, but Zhang Xiaoyan was too busy managing Huaxia and rarely paid attention to it on weekdays. This child seemed to have found a spiritual haven. He chatted a lot with Su Yorong at school. What do people do here? What do groupies do? 2 days later, Su Yorong called Lu Feng, hoping that Duo could celebrate the New Year in Xiangjiang and that her place would be more lively. Celebrating the New Year at your place? What year are you celebrating? Lu Feng said with some dissatisfaction. You send the child back. What are you doing outside during the Chinese New Year? Lu Feng, Mr. Lu is a busy man. Can you take some time to spend more time with your child? How old is she? She is still a little girl in your eyes. Su Yorong recounted some of the chat between the two. She said in a deep voice, she has entered adolescence now, and her mind is very sensitive. An adopted child has no sense of belonging to this family. You are busy with your own affairs all day long. If you meet every few months, give a sum of money. What's the use of lots of gifts? Lu Feng listened to Duo's things on the phone. He didn't know a single thing. Especially when he learned that the child knew that he was adopted, he felt a little uncomfortable. But that's how entrepreneurs are. They have to take care of both the business and the family. Zhang Xiaoyan is busy taking care of Huasha, so she doesn't have so much energy to take care of what her children think. Then it's up to you, but I'm warning you, don't instill any nonsense into her, Lu Feng said solemnly. I haven't taken good care of it all these years, and now I'm starting to take care of it, Su Yorong said a little unhappy. Just have your meeting, drink your bar, that's it. The call was hung up, and Lu Feng was a little disappointed. No one wants to lose the company of his family, but his time is limited. The hurricane needs more support, whether it is from various policies or cooperation with global high-end enterprises. It's what he wants to do, not to mention there is a giddy mobile phone now. Lu Feng didn't have time to think too much, so he turned around and entered the conference room. Next year, Hurricane Semiconductor will cooperate with the Academy of Sciences in multiple fields. At the same time, it will also have to fight for some projects, especially in the specifications and thresholds of the mobile phone and semiconductor industries. On top of the problems, I hope that the country can promote Hurricane Semiconductor to join the International Association. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1294. Latest website. Lu Feng really couldn't spare much time to devote to Duo. Zhang Xiaoyan knew that she had to take her focus away from work, otherwise no one would know what kind of person Duo would become during her adolescence. Coupled with her phone communication with Duo was particularly close to Su Yorong, and in just a few days, he seemed to be even better than her as a mother. Zhang Xiaoyan also understood that she could not continue to treat children the same way, otherwise the children would never communicate with her. The end result would be that her children would be like strangers to her, without any control other than the management of daily behaviors. Deep communication. On New Year's Eve, Lu Feng returned to Shenzhen. His home had been decorated in a New Year style. Some of his partners in Shenzhen also came to pay New Year greetings. In addition, Zhang Xiaoyan had some connections in Huasha, and Zhang Fengxia knew some people from her investment activities. People. These relationships are close or not, and they move around quite frequently during holidays. Everyone knows in their hearts that they have no feelings for each other. They come to the door with gifts and ask for something. Perhaps this is why adults feel that the new year has lost its flavor. There are less and less emotions, and more about making plans for next year, and showing different smiles to people with different interests. Duo also rushed back from Xiangjiang. Before returning, the three of them had a small family meeting. Zhang Fengxia told Lu Feng not to be so stern then. From now on, Duo should not be treated like a child and should be respected and communicated with. After Duo came back, she talked less. She often wore headphones and wandered around the house. She was very emotional when others suddenly entered her room. They had several quarrels in the day after she came back. Lu Feng couldn't help but want to slap her. Zhang Xiaoyan stopped him. The Chinese New Year is tomorrow, so put away your broken headphones. I have to say hello to someone at home, do you hear me? Lu Feng looked at her shaking her head and said with some dissatisfaction, wearing your broken headphones again, I want to ask if you don't pay attention, I'll smash it for you. Smash it, Duoduo said with a bit of anger, smash it and I'll leave. Okay, can you calm down a little, Zhang Xiaoyan said from the side, no one said anything to you when you came back. Why are you so angry? It's like a firecracker. Duoduo stood up and went upstairs without saying a word. It's really hard to worry about being old, and it's not easy to worry about being young. Lu Feng took a deep breath, sat on the sofa, waved to Miao Miao, hugged her, and muttered, you can't grow up when you grow up. Learn from my sister. New Year's Eve arrived as promised, and Lu Feng organized a New Year's Eve dinner on the lawn of the villa. Several neighbors also came to attend, and the crowd of dozens of people was quite lively. As the Spring Festival Gala started, everyone gathered in small groups to chat. Zhang Fengxia played mahjong with a few neighbor ladies, while Duoduo called a few classmates to gather together. Only Lu Feng stared at the Spring Festival Gala. The Spring Festival Gala in 1999 is considered to be the year with the most classics. This year, Zhao Benchen brought the classic Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, the classic song Go Home Often, and Huang Hong's sketch Cheer Up. Especially the line in Cheer Up, if I don't get laid off, who will be laid off, it has kept so many people unable to sleep at night. The problem of state-owned enterprises has been exposed. Coupled with the flood this year, the pain caused by the reform it affected too many people, a large number of state-owned enterprises went bankrupt, and private enterprises were pushed to take on major responsibilities this year. Otherwise, Lu Feng would not have opened his mouth like a lion in the industrial park. Lu Feng's year passed very quickly, but for ordinary people, this year is too slow. Faced with the problem of food and clothing, every day is struggle. At around 10 o'clock in the evening, the fireworks had begun to set off. The gorgeous fireworks in the night sky heralded the complete departure of this year. Lu Feng saw that Duoduo's friends had left, so he stood up and walked over, sitting down next to her. Duoduo glanced at the father next to him and said, why are you sitting next to me? I can't even sit next to you now. Lu Feng looked at the coastline not far away and said, how about going for a walk with Dad? Let's go. Lu Feng reached out and took her arm, and walked through the landscape area in front of the door. In less than 2 minutes, he arrived at the beach. A bright moon hung high, making the whole night brighter. How was the concert? Lu Feng asked. It's good, but the scalper tickets are so expensive. It cost me more than 8,000 yuan, Duoduo complained a little, they just think that we are young and sell it to others for more than 3,000 yuan. I'm actually quite curious. How did you get on the ferry? You don't have an ID card or a passport, Lu Feng wondered. Just spend money, find a smuggler, and take one person over for more than 5,000. Money is a good thing, Lu Feng nodded and said, only you classmates can afford to run away from home like this. Dad was very poor when he was young. By the way, that star chaser, are there many people? It's okay, more than a dozen people, Duoduo thought for a while and said, many people don't have money and can't go to the concert. Usually they just buy a lyric book, put stickers on it, and then write lyrics and so on. Some people also buy posters, tapes and stuff. The lyrics book, Lu Feng took a deep breath and muttered, what a contemporary thing. Dad is actually a starstruck fan. Dad likes Andy Lau. I remember when I was a kid, you used Andy Lau's photos as endorsements and got people to sue you. Duoduo stared at Lu Feng and said, how come there are fans like you? I was poor at that time. It was out of my love for idols. Let's just chat, don't expose my shortcomings, Lu Feng said with some embarrassment. The two walked on the beach and fell into silence. Lu Feng suddenly felt that he was no longer a father and he didn't know how to communicate with her. Their life circles didn't have much overlap. What was she doing in school? I don't know at all. Dad, can you please ask my idol to endorse you? I heard from other fans that he is in financial difficulty. Duo said, let's give him more money, at least so that he will not be so difficult. Difficulty, Lu Feng didn't know where her compassion came from, so he said, you should have a good understanding of the income of popular celebrities. They told me that 90% of the money will be taken away by the brokerage company. They are very poor. Duo said hurriedly. When we originally wanted to hire a spokesperson for our mobile phone, the total expenses amounted to 30 million to 50 million a year. They split this money with the brokerage company. Even if the contract they signed was a scam, they paid 3 tier. There are also 9 million to 15 million. Lu Feng patted her shoulder and said, according to what you said, give me more, give me 100 million. Duo thought for a moment and said, forget it, it's too much money. Dad knows that you are wronged. Normally, your mother and I are busy, so most of the time we use money to make up for you. You are probably the only one in your school, and you can give me a few thousand in pocket money, right? You are still young, I don't know enough about this world, but it doesn't matter. When you have a vacation this summer, I will find a connection and arrange for you to work next to your idol as an assistant or something. Really? Duo said in surprise. Yes. And this matter does not come with any conditions, no matter whether you do well or not. Lu Feng touched her head and said, but there is one thing, that is, I will not tell anyone that you are my daughter, because only in this way will the world you face become more real. I heard them say that after the junior high school exams, many people go to work to support their families. I can also work. When I was a child, I worked in an electronics factory with my mother. Duo said confidently. Then how much do you remember about the electronics factory? Lu Feng asked. Duo thought about it carefully. She just remembered that a fat man yelled at her, but she couldn't remember the rest at all, but she still felt that she could go to work. After all, she had suffered a lot when she was a child. Lu Feng laughed and said nothing when he heard these words. Over the years, she had already forgotten her suffering. Whether it was at home or at school, she was surrounded by countless people. She was absolutely supported by everyone. Only when she truly faced the world could she understand the world. The truth. I heard from your aunt so that you knew you were brought back, Lu Feng asked directly. Duo stopped talking and just nodded. It doesn't matter. Whether you know it or not, your parents are the same as always. Don't think too much about it. Our family is different from others. We may not have enough love and companionship in this family, but we have enough money. Lu Feng he touched her head and said, you will understand when you grow up. What you have is the envy of others. Of course, Dad will try his best to spend time with you. But there is one thing, that is, if anything happens in the future, you have to tell your parents. Don't be angry. I heard that you can't be found. I'm in a hurry in the capital. I can't wait to call the leaders of all major provinces. You know people are in touch with each other, right? Only when two people rely on each other can they be considered a person. Before my father met your mother, he relied on your grandparents. They were the meaning of my life. When he met your mother and had you, you were my support. You were a part of my life and a part of my life. It's very important, so, student Lu Duo, don't let people find you randomly in the future, otherwise my life will be meaningless. Duo stopped, lowered his head and began to choke. Lu Feng bent down to wipe her tears, his own eyes were also red. Duo sobbed and asked, you said mom is your other half, then why do you still have Aunt Fengxia and Aunt Su? Maybe Dad's Chinese character is traditional Chinese, with more strokes. Lu Feng looked a little evasive. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1295. Latest website. Duo is not a 3-year-old child. She has her own thoughts. Lu Feng's high emotional intelligence answer does not satisfy her. It is said that parents are their children's best teachers. This is true at all. In order to avoid the awkwardness of the topic, Lu Feng had no choice but to suggest walking back. The time was already midnight, and fireworks instantly occupied the entire night sky. Lu Feng looked at the brilliance that erupted in a large villa area in front of him, and stood still to admire it for a moment. Go back. At midnight, there is a lot of noise, neighbors are congratulating each other, and the phone at home is ringing non-stop. Telephone New Year greetings have become the mainstream of this era. Although it is not the 1980s, all the lines are busy, but sometimes it is still difficult to get through. The commotion didn't quiet down until around 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. All the lights in the whole house were left on all night and were brightly lit until dawn. For Su Yorong, celebrating the New Year is not a happy thing. The fermentation of public opinion a year ago did not cause any ripples to Lu Feng. He originally wanted to go back to his hometown during the New Year, but it was not convenient to bring a child with him. In addition, it is easy to be criticized by others when I return to my hometown. Now it is not like many years later. As long as you have money, even if you are a single mother, there will be people around you. In places like villages and towns, no matter how much money you have, if you get pregnant out of wedlock, you will be called a pheasant. On the first day of the New Year, Su Yorong booked a luxury ship ticket back to Shenzhen, and took her children to wait on the ship. She planned to go to Lu Feng today to pay New Year greetings and get a big red envelope for her children. Before leaving, Su Yorong called Zhang Xiaoyan and told her what time she would arrive at the port. If it was convenient, she could send a car to pick her up. Zhang Xiaoyan was somewhat resistant to her sudden visit, but when she thought about her as a woman, she was carrying. It's quite pitiful to think about a child living in a foreign country during the Chinese New Year. Zhang Xiaoyan agreed, and Zhang Fengxia talked about it. Although Zhang Fengxia didn't agree, she still took care of Zhang Xiaoyan. At 9:30 in the morning, as the ferry docked, 2 Mercedes-Benzes were already waiting at the port. Su Yorong got on the car directly after leaving the port, and entered the house at around 10 o'clock. As soon as they entered the house, Su Yorong kept her attitude lower than before. When she saw Zhang Xiaoyan, she smiled and stepped forward, grabbed her hand and said affectionately, "It will get better and better in the new year. It looks better. This outfit matches you very well. I saw a similar one in Europe before, and I thought it would suit you better. I just bought something casually. There is no point in celebrating the new year now. I just want to celebrate it for my children," Zhang Xiaoyan said politely. "Come in quickly." "Where is the child?" "The child is behind and the nanny is taking care of it." "Where's Duo?" Su Yorong glanced around the room and asked. "It's upstairs." "Bring the kids in. It's cold outside," Zhang Fengxia said. As Lu Jiaran was brought in, Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan gave a few polite compliments, and both of them gave the child a big red envelope. After Duo went downstairs, he saw Su Yorong running over and saying hello sweetly. "Here, Auntie will give you a big red envelope. You will definitely be admitted to the best high school this year." Su Yorong took out 2 checks from his body, handed them to Duo and Miao Miao respectively, and said, 10 million each. "Isn't this too much?" Zhang Xiaoyan said hurriedly. "Just give me a New Year's red envelope with as much meaning as you want. This is too much for you." "Yes, we are still children, so much money is inappropriate," Zhang Fengxia also said hurriedly. "This money is for the 2 children. It is their first start-up capital. Take it. This is also a little thought from me. If you give more, Aunt Su will not be able to afford it, Su Yorong said. There are many ways. Duo Duo looked at the money in her hand and wanted to be polite, but with so much money, she really couldn't be polite. She bowed with a smile and said, "Thank you, Aunt Su." Zhang Xiaoyan glared at Duo Duo and asked her to return the check, but she couldn't get angry in front of Su Yorong. It's too expensive. I'm going to make a new one for the child. As Zhang Xiaoyan spoke, she stood up to write the check, but Su Yorong pulled her back and said hurriedly that you're welcome, and they weren't here to exchange money. As the saying goes, don't hit someone with a smiling face, not to mention that Su Yorong's visit was just such a big gift. The three of them sat on the sofa and chatted. The three of them consciously avoided Lu Feng. Most of them talked about cosmetics. All kinds of things during the new year. Zhang Xiaoyan originally thought that she was just here to stay for a while and then leave. Su Yorong said on the phone that she was going back to her hometown from Shenzhen. They chatted until 11 o'clock at noon, but she didn't see the other party showing any intention of leaving. Lu Feng woke up at around 11 o'clock and washed up on the second floor. When he went downstairs and saw Su Yorong, he was stunned and looked a bit unhappy. Are you awake? Su Yorong asked with a smile on his face. She came to pay New Year's greetings and will return to her hometown soon. Zhang Xiaoyan hurriedly mentioned the matter of returning to her hometown. By the way, when I was shopping in the mall, I happened to see a suit. I thought it would suit you well, so I bought it for you as a New Year's gift. Su Yorong asked the nanny to take out a clothing bag from under the stroller. I won't wear it. I don't want to be angry with you during the Chinese New Year, so leave quickly, Lu Feng said solemnly. Su Yorong looked a little aggrieved and said, I won't force you to wear it if you don't want to. Now that the matter is over, I have nothing to say. I can raise a child by myself, but the child is innocent. Today I came here just to put an end to my thoughts. If you say that no matter how I change, you will never accept me and this child, I will never bother you again. I know you look down on me. I am not Zhang Xiaoyan. I have followed you since you were born in poverty, and I am not an official lady. I have struggled over the years to achieve the wealth I have today. I am quite satisfied with myself. This year has passed. My heart breaks, I just feel so lonely. My child keeps crying on New Year's Eve, and I hold my child and think, what sin have I done to be so lonely? I won't force it. It is said that 70 years of life are rare. According to the saying, I will be wandering for half my life. I just want to be safe and stable in the future. I don't ask for anything. I just want you to take care of the child until he grows up. Ask, I have an explanation. Su Yorong started crying as she spoke. She took out the paper from the side and kept wiping it. It wasn't like she was acting. She was a new mother. She used to celebrate the new year alone, but now the two of them stayed at home and looked at the family outside. She really felt unhappy about the reunion. Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't bear to see the scene, so she started crying and looked at Lu Feng. Even Duo Duo, who was standing aside with the check in his hand, couldn't be happy. Lu Feng felt the eyes of his family members. At this moment, he seemed to have provoked everyone's anger. Okay, it's Chinese New Year, Lu Feng prevaricated a few words, walked to the stroller, and saw a fair and chubby boy. When the child saw Lu Feng, he became happy and kept stretching out his hand to thank. To explore him, a giggle came out of your mouth. Lu Feng stretched out his hand to tease the little guy. It must be said that human cubs tend to be soft-hearted when they are a few months old. It's already noon, let's have a meal together and leave in the afternoon, Zhang Fengxia said. Everyone thought that Su Yorong would stay for the meal, but they didn't expect her to say, no, we have a flight at 1 o'clock and it will be too late to finish the meal. You guys can eat, I'll leave first. She stood up and said a few polite words to Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan, and then left without looking back. I'm afraid we really have to say goodbye this time, Zhang Fengxia whispered. Do you believe her? Lu Feng said angrily, this person doesn't have a human word in his mouth. However, Zhang Fengxia felt differently. She could feel Su Yorong's loss. The vigor she had used to make a fuss had disappeared a lot. Maybe she had really given up this time. Mia Miao's 10 million check was confiscated, and Duo Duo's 10 million originally wanted to be confiscated, but unfortunately she had grown up and couldn't get it out no matter what. In the end, after a compromise between the two parties, the money was deposited in a bank account. From a specific bank account, she can manage money, but she cannot withdraw it. During dinner, Zhang Xiaoyan proposed to return the 20 million to others, so that everyone would not default on each other's debts, so as not to feel uncomfortable, and Lu Feng agreed. Zhang Fengxia's parents also called during the Chinese New Year this year. The matter has reached this point. Even if they don't want to admit it, it is unrealistic to completely sever ties. At this point, they can only admit it with their noses pinched. Judging from the current situation, it is impossible to obtain the certificate. The family just hopes to have a wedding as soon as possible. At the same time, they have to come back for the new year. As long as the two of them bring their children back, it will be fine. Zhang Xiaoyan's family also hopes to come back for 2 days during the new year. Her parents are getting older day by day, and relatives at home hope to get some money. Even if they come back and spend some money, it is enough for ordinary people to live for a year. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, Lu Feng took Zhang Fengxia home, and Zhang Xiaoyan also took Duo Duo back to her hometown. Time flies, this year has passed in the blink of an eye, company personnel have arrived at work, the plan for the new year has begun to run, Hurricane Semiconductor has stabilized, and the main direction this year is still mobile phones. In the first month of the new year, Giddy mobile phones sold 80,000 units, and various accessories have also begun to be launched in large quantities. Lu Feng said at the New Year group meeting that he would spend 50 million this year to build Giddy's own channels, Electrical Appliance City. The project was approved again, and planning started from logistics, sales, inventory, etc. Not only did we build it ourselves, but we also cooperated with several major electrical appliance cities to put Giddy mobile phones into the electrical appliance cities. In the first few months of the new year, Lu Feng was busy in full swing. He traveled to Xiangjiang, Shenzhen, and Tokyo. A large R/U00260 center in Tokyo was also established, and everything was moving in a good direction. Su Yorong seemed to have really disappeared half of the time. The noisy media seemed to have suddenly become silent after the new year, and there was no more movement. Su Yorong also disappeared without a trace. This incident surprised Lu Feng to a certain extent, and he even went to find someone to find out what she was doing. Su Yorong is no longer as busy as before and is still in Xiangjiang, but she is no longer participating in any activities. She lives in seclusion. Apart from taking care of her children, she has nothing else to do every day, and she has never seen a person of the opposite sex around her. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1296. Latest website. Lu Feng was very busy and didn't have much time to pay attention to these things. Su Yorong's disappearance was a good thing for him. After the new year, Zhang Xiaoyan went to the United States to recuperate in a medical institution. According to the timetable given by Bian, recovery can take up to 2 to 3 months. In addition to the direct operation system, Lu Feng is also busy with overseas plans. As the international situation improves day by day, it is only a matter of time before all of Hurricane Capital's products go overseas. During this period, in addition to being busy in Hong Kong and Shenzhen, he also ran several travel to Europe. The previous things were just shelved and did not mean the end. Lu Feng picked up the previous relationship network and spent money when it was necessary. He found some local brands to cooperate. The two parties cooperated to establish brands, and provide the other party promised to help Lu Feng settle the matter completely in the parliament. In early March, Lu Feng went to Tokyo and signed a letter of intent for a large R/U0026D center. A total of 6 companies joined in. The two parties agreed to jointly invest $1 billion to build an R/U0026D center no later than 2001, mainly to promote the research and development of new technologies in global semiconductors, communications, etc. After the signing of the contract between the two parties, a dinner was held. Lu Feng made a speech at the scene and made a statement on the development and prospects of global cutting-edge technology. Liukin chatted with several technical executives. This year is definitely the most rewarding year for Hurricane Capital. There were a lot of people at the scene, a rough estimate of more than 200 people, including some beauties who came to the dinner to make friends with celebrities. A girl in her 24s, holding a glass of red wine in her hand, kept her eyes fixed on Lu Feng in the crowd. Lu Feng talked with several presidents about the current international situation and the future of the industry. Lu Feng was optimistic about the future, but he was not optimistic about the future of Fuzhou Semiconductor. During the conversation, Lu Feng told them more than once that in the next 2 years, investing in mainland China for 10 years will yield excess returns. It is not only financial investment, but also industrial investment. There is no need to focus on the European market and the American market. China will form another huge market and affect global change. Most of them smiled at Lu Feng's views. Considering the current domestic economic situation, they believed that these words were really embarrassing. After a conversation, Lu Feng walked aside. Within 2 steps, a man suddenly walked up to him and said, "Mr. Lu, I admire you very much. I didn't expect to meet you here." "Hello, are you from China?" Lu Feng said politely. "I'm from Xiangjiang. You speak Mandarin so well. How did you get here?" Lu Feng looked at her. She exuded a youthful atmosphere. She was wearing a light blue dress that looked particularly close to her body. "I am a student at Xiangjiang University and an exchange student at Roma Company. Because I can speak Chinese, I was asked to be a translator. I see that you didn't bring a translator with you. Let me translate for you," the girl volunteered. Lu Feng turned around and took a look. He saw that the local interpreter was assigned to him, but it was a bit lame. He turned around and ran off to nowhere. Sure. This girl followed Lu Feng throughout the dinner, and the translation, atmosphere, and etiquette were all in place. Everyone else at the scene thought it was Lu Feng's translator and didn't ask any questions. After 3 rounds of drinking, Lu Feng felt a little better and found a seat to sit down. The girl asked for a glass of lemonade, handed it to Lu Feng and said with concern, "Are you working too hard?" "I'm used to it, but I still don't know what to call you," Lu Feng asked. "My name is Lu Junjun, you can call me Junjun," Lu Junjun said gracefully. Lu Feng nodded. As the dinner ended, Liukin saw that Lu Feng had been accompanied by a beautiful woman all night. He just said hello before leaving and didn't say anything else. After leaving the venue, it started to rain lightly outside, and Lu Junjun looked around with a troubled expression. "What's wrong? Don't you have a car?" Lu Feng asked. She nodded, slightly embarrassed. "I'll take you off, get in the car," Lu Feng said, and a commercial vehicle had parked in front of him. This time, there were many people coming to take him. In addition to a driver, he also brought 2 assistants. After getting in the car, Lu Junjun sat next to Lu Feng, leaned slightly on Lu Feng's shoulder and said, "I'm not very good at drinking, I'm a little dizzy." "Don't drink any more now that you don't know how to drink," Lu Feng said to her. "Mr. Lu, can you send me up in a moment?" Lu Junjun looked at Lu Feng and said with a hint of exasperation, "I just want you to visit my home." Lu Feng seemed a little hesitant. The assistant next to him didn't know what was going to happen. He said hurriedly, "Mr. Lu, just send her back. A little girl has a drink. If something happens, it won't be good. We'll just wait downstairs." Lu Feng nodded and agreed. When the car arrived downstairs, Lu Feng took Lu Junjun into the elevator. In the elevator, she leaned against Lu Feng's body, looking particularly ambiguous. Lu Feng raised his head and looked around the elevator, and found a surveillance camera above his head. This scene seemed familiar, and he felt something was wrong in his heart. The elevator door opened, Lu Junjun took Lu Feng's arm and said, "Let's go." "There are a lot of surveillance here," Lu Feng asked casually. "It's an apartment, so there should be more surveillance," Lu Junjun said. Lu Feng walked out of the elevator, stopped, and said, "I'll take you right here, there's not even a second step left." "Ah," Lu Junjun was a little dumbfounded. He didn't know what happened, which made Lu Feng suddenly change his mind. He was stunned for a moment and said, "We are already at the door of the house. Why don't you go in and sit down and have a drink of water?" "It's okay, it's easy to explain a man and a woman alone." Lu Feng looked at the camera and said, "Now that we are under the camera, everything is easy to explain. Don't worry, I'm not a blackmailer, it's just that I admire you very much." Lu Junjun hugged Lu Feng's arm and started acting coquettishly. "Forget it. In this way, I promise to the camera that no matter what happens, it will be of my own free will." Lu Junjun sensed Lu Feng's worry and hurriedly said the promise to the camera. As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled Lu Feng inside and entered the room. The inside was not small, it looked like hundreds of square meters, and the decoration was quite exquisite. Lu Feng sat down on the sofa, and Lu Junjun poured Lu Feng a glass of water. Then he sat next to Lu Feng, very close to him. "I admired you before, but I didn't expect you to be much more handsome than what I saw in the newspaper." She leaned on Lu Feng as she spoke and whispered, "I'm a little dizzy." As he spoke, he arched his head on Lu Feng's shoulder and slowly pressed it against Lu Feng's cheek, rubbing his red lips slightly. The effect of alcohol made people excited, and she was particularly proactive, like a middle-aged man trying to seduce a little girl. After only a few minutes, Lu Junjun was sitting on Lu Feng, and the two were kissing passionately. Downstairs, the driver glanced at the time and asked the two assistants, "Why don't you turn off the engine? It will probably take a while." "Don't turn off the engine, maybe it will come down soon." "Not really, it's only been a few minutes." "Who knows?" More than an hour later, Lu Feng went downstairs, got in the car and went straight to where he was staying. After a brief wash, he went to bed. In the next few days, Lu Feng took Lu Junjun with him and asked her to act as a translator. This woman also had some abilities and means, talk to Lu Feng about the future of the industry. If he made a mistake, he would just say that he had just graduated and didn't understand much yet, but occasionally he got it right, or he heard something from others. When he told Lu Feng thought this person was a bit interesting. To put it bluntly, just because Lu Feng is busy outside these days, he needs someone like this by his side. In Xiangjiang, Su Yurong, apart from working out, swimming, keeping in shape every day, and occasionally paying attention to the financial industry, the rest of his thoughts are basically on those models. "Didn't you say that someone came into contact with him?" "There is no news about anything in the past 2 days," Su Yurong asked towards the phone. "Mr. Su, I've been calling her these days, but I can't get through." "I'll keep in touch with her in the next few days," the other end of the phone said awkwardly. Su Yurong knew the reason after just a moment's thought. "When you meet a billionaire, do you still pay a mere million for the balance?" "Okay, I get it," Su Yurong thought for a while and said, "Just give me her mobile phone number, and don't worry about the rest." Su Yurong wrote down the girl's phone number, and then edited a text message to tell her that if she wanted to stay with Lu Feng for a long time, she had to solve a problem. Lu Feng's ex-wife, as long as she could help Lu Feng. If Feng's ex-wife leaves, Lu Feng will definitely love her to death. Su Yorong edited more than a dozen text messages and fabricated a story for her about her ex-wife's deep love for Lu Feng. Lu Feng had long wanted to dump her. As long as she told Zhang Xiaoyan that she was Lu Feng's current girlfriend, Zhang Xiaoyan would definitely understand. She left dejectedly, and at the same time she included Zhang Xiaoyan's mobile phone number in the text message. Lu Junjun received the text message and called back immediately, but Su Yorong didn't answer it at all. "Who are you?" she texted back. "You don't need to care who I am. He is with you now just because of the novelty. You can't get much money. Only by withdrawing your value will he love you more. There is no need to reply to my text messages. Goodbye." Lu Junjun felt a little suspicious when he read the text messages. He replied a few text messages. As expected, the other party stopped replying to her. He put his mobile phone in his pocket. Lu Feng walked out of the living room. He was polite to a few people and listened to the conversation between the two parties. Tomorrow Lu Feng is about to go back. After leaving the hotel, Lu Junjun followed Lu Feng and asked, "Are you going back tomorrow?" "Yes, thanks to you during this period, the salary of the translator will be paid to you. I will definitely look for you next time I come to Fuzhou," Lu Feng said with a smile on his face. When Lu Junjun heard that Lu Feng was leaving without her, the smile on her face faded a lot, and she said, "I just want to return to China, and everything here is over." "Then have you booked a flight?" Lu Feng asked. "Not yet," she said awkwardly. "Have you already booked your tickets?" "Yeah, let's do it. I'll also cover your air ticket back. It's been hard these days. Leave a domestic account and I'll call you from my company account when the time comes." Lu Feng turned around and told his assistant, "I'll forget it then on the consumption of daily necessities." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1297. Latest website. Lu Junjun could feel that once they separated, she might never have anything to do with Lu Feng in her life. This was not what she wanted. "Mr. Lu, which city are you going back to?" Lu Junjun asked. "Go back to Shenzhen." "I happen to be going back to Shenzhen, how about we go together?" She approached Lu Feng as she spoke and coquettishly said softly, "I can't bear to let you go, I'll be very good." "I'm very busy going back to Shenzhen, and I have to go home." Lu Feng looked at her and said, "I'm really good. When you have time, I will eat with you. If you are busy, I will never disturb you." She blinked her big eyes and whispered something in Lu Feng's ear. Lu Feng was a little embarrassed when he heard these words. He glanced at the assistant beside him and said, "Okay, I haven't heard you say that before. I only learned about this kind of unique skill in yoga recently when I was chatting with my best friend," she said with some embarrassment. Lu Feng smiled and asked his assistant to help him book another ticket. As a man, you have to clear the game to play the game. Even if you haven't fully explored a woman, you won't give up either. The next day, as the flight took off, the group returned to Shenzhen. Lu Feng arranged for Lu Junjun to stay in a 5-star hotel, and then rushed to the industrial park to inspect the situation. Currently, the second phase of the industrial park project has begun. In addition to the industrial park, Lu Feng also visited a direct store in Shenzhen. In the evening, Lu Feng returned home and saw that Duo was already at home. During this time, Zhang Xiaoyan was away, so Zhang Fengxia stayed in Shenzhen. It was convenient to take care of Duo. At the same time, she was also busy inspecting internet companies. "Didn't you go out to play with your classmates today?" Lu Feng asked Duo. "No, I'm doing my homework at home today, and there will be exams at the beginning of school next week." After Duo finished speaking, he suddenly asked Lu Feng, "Dad, what does the embassy do?" Lu Feng was stunned for a moment and said, "An embassy is a house stationed by a country in another country. Official personnel of our country live in that house." "That means they blew up our house," Duo said angrily. "Yes, Lu Feng sat down and said, "But, we can't do anything. The only thing we can do is protest. Those people are so bad." Duo said to Lu Feng, "Will something happen to my mother over there? I miss her a little. They will come back after a while. These are bad. When you are unarmed, they are bad. When you have aircraft and cannons, they are not bad. When we are weak, they are a pack of wolves. When we are strong, they will become dogs." Lu Feng sat down and took a deep breath and said, "Stop paying attention to these things, study hard and revitalize China." Can China be revitalized by studying hard? But I heard many students say that they study to immigrate. Duo said, a little discouraged. "I know that many of my classmates want to study abroad in high school. Of course one person can't shape China by studying hard, but hundreds of millions of people studying hard can certainly revitalize China." Lu Feng looked at Duo and said, "You don't need to pay too much attention to these things. The goal this year is to get into a good high school. As long as you enrich yourself and your abilities are sufficient, the responsibility will naturally fall on your shoulders." "Why hundreds of millions? What about the other people? The vast majority of people in this world cannot shoulder any national responsibilities alone. Everyone is small, but when these small people come together, they are powerful. There are still a handful of people who will tell you many years later, 'Leave me alone.' What about 3,000 yuan a month?" Lu Feng patted Duo's little head with mixed feelings. "Stop talking and do your homework." At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Zhang Xiaoyan called back and said that she was laying flowers. On the phone, she kept crying and cursed that the American emperor was not a human being. Lu Feng could only comfort her and stop being angry. In the face of the times, Lu Feng can't change anything. Even though he works hard, he can only lift up an industry a little bit. Compared with the previous generation, domestic semiconductors have at most a few more foundations. The rest is not something that an ordinary person can do. Right or left? Lu Feng used to think that when a person knows what will happen in the next few decades, he will have the ability to change the world. Now it seems that this ability is as fragile as a shortbread. He can only change a few parts in 1.4 billion. The rest is powerless. If you want to change the destiny of a country, you can only have a great man descended from heaven, and Lu Feng is just a common man, a man who cannot tolerate vulgarity. Zhang Fengxia just came back after 9 o'clock. When she saw Lu Feng, she also mentioned the matter of the embassy. Today she attended an internet conference. Everyone was in a low mood and was filled with indignation. They really don't care about human affairs at all. When will this world be fair? Zhang Fengxia smelled of alcohol and sat down and said, "There is no fairness between people, especially between countries. There's no use being angry. It's useless to be angry. When we become stronger, the world will be fairer." Lu Feng asked her, "If you don't talk about it anymore, how about internet companies?" "Forget it, these companies now are either empty shells, or they just build a domain name and 2 servers. The website does not even receive 1,000 visits a day, let alone a profit model." Zhang Fengxia sighed helplessly. He said, "I still think the internet market is not big. Now the mainstream internet in the world relies on advertising fees. But with so many websites, how much advertising fees are there? The development prospects are a problem. You can't just look at advertising fees. Have you ever thought about the fact that everything is online, including office work, games, information, videos, and entertainment?" Lu Feng looked at her and said, "Office is the biggest prospect, otherwise Jinshan wouldn't be so valuable. As for games and entertainment, fund exchange is a problem. For example, for paid games, how can users pay money to the company? This is a problem. Once the payment is made, if there is a threshold in the process, it will bring a devastating blow. As for websites such as information acquisition and video, the profit model is also difficult. In the end, everyone focuses on advertising, so the unit price of advertising will decrease, entering a vicious circle. Looking at the internet at this point in time, it is a fog. All profitable internet companies rely on advertising and have no other means of profit. Zhang Fengxia's early judgment on the internet was very accurate, but no one would have thought that the internet would develop to the point where it is today, with everything online. You can combine online and offline. As for payment, it can be a bit tedious. Lu Feng thought for a while and said, the internet is a good thing, and the future prospects are limitless. By the way, I met a very interesting company today. They are engaged in instant messaging. They want to use the internet to replace telephone calls. The number of users has soared in the past 2 months, but there is no profitability at all. Zhang Fengxia said helplessly, their products, even ads, can't be inserted. Is this a company that does ICQ? Lu Feng asked casually. How do you know? Zhang Fengxia said with a smile, their products are still plagiarized, and the name comes from abroad. Internet communication is a good subject. As long as there are users, you don't have to worry about making a profit. Even if you just enclose a piece of land, you can still set up a stall in this place where people come and go every day. Lu Feng said to her, pay more attention to this company. If they want money, they can invest some. Investment? Zhang Fengxia frowned and said, I don't see any investability in them, no matter from which dimension, and there will be no shortage of such chat products in the future. As long as you are willing, you can make one tomorrow. However, there are still relatively few such products on the market, and chat products have a characteristic that it is difficult to migrate user relationships. First mover has the advantage of being first mover. Besides, there is not much money. Lu Feng could not see it from a professional perspective. Go and convince Zhang Fengxia. Because from a professional point of view, it really has no investment value. It is now too replaceable and can be replaced by a similar software tomorrow. The problem is that it has never been replaced. It was late at night, and Lu Junjun seemed a little bored staying in the hotel alone. He called Lu Feng twice but no one answered, and he didn't reply to his text messages. She felt uneasy in her heart. She had contacted other models in the past 2 days. They all said that they should seize this opportunity. As long as they enter a wealthy family, let alone herself, the whole family will become rich along with them. Will they care about a mere million? Lu Junjun thought that Lu Feng was accompanying Zhang Xiaoyan when he returned home, and was afraid that Lu Feng would stop contacting her if he lost interest in her. According to her understanding, as long as she said she was having an affair with Lu Feng, the woman named Zhang Xiaoyan would definitely make a fuss. When Lu Feng got annoyed, he kicked her and kept her with him. With such simple thoughts, Lu Junjun dialed Zhang Xiaoyan's number. Who is it? Zhang Xiaoyan asked on the other end of the phone. Are you Zhang Xiaoyan? Lu Junjun said straight to the point. It's me. Which company do you belong to? What's going on? I'm not from any company. I'm your husband's girlfriend. I'm calling you just to tell you that he loves me very much now. You should pack up your own things and get out of here to avoid being kicked out. It doesn't look good on your face. On the phone, Lu Junjun explained the cause and effect of the incident, and warned Zhang Xiaoyan to get out quickly, otherwise she would come to the door. According to Lu Junjun's idea, how could an old woman like Zhang Xiaoyan in her 30s compare with her in her early 20s? Zhang Xiaoyan's expression on the other end of the phone was gloomy when she heard these words. She was not angry because Lu Feng found another person, but she understood Su Yorong's words in an instant. This was not the first one, and it was definitely not the last one. Today Lu Junjun can come out, and tomorrow there will be Zhang Junjun. Someone needs to control Lu Feng. When a person has no control, it means absolute freedom, and absolute freedom must bring absolute indulgence. Speak, is the signal not good? Are you still pretending not to hear? Lu Junjun said towards the phone. I will handle it, Zhang Xiaoyan said solemnly. Deal with me? Humph, you're a woman, what's the point of leaving someone else's house? You still have to deal with me. I'm not dealing with you, I'm dealing with him. Lu Junjun was in a daze for a moment, and her heart twitched, wondering if Lu Feng's assets belonged to someone else, maybe he was a son-in-law who came to the house. Before she could ask another question, the phone was hung up. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1298. Latest website. Zhang Xiaoyan hung up the phone and did not call Lu Feng immediately. She was no longer the rural woman who cried and made trouble when something happened. She couldn't restrain Lu Feng. Let's not say whether Lu Feng admitted it or not. Even if he admitted it, what could she do? Zhang Xiaoyan thought for a while and called Zhang Fengxia. She used to be alone, but now she has a companion. She can discuss whatever happens. After the call was put through, Zhang Fengxia heard what happened and walked down from the second floor. She walked out of the house and whispered, "How did she know your phone number?" "I don't know about that. Now it seems that Su Yorong is right. He needs someone to take care of him. Now there is Lu Junjun. Who knows who will appear in the future? Everyone who comes into contact with him wants to. When you enter this house, even if you can block 10 people, how can you block hundreds of them?" Zhang Xiaoyan sighed, looking a little discouraged. Zhang Fengxia felt a little wronged. She couldn't understand why Lu Feng did this. Both she and Zhang Xiaoyan liked Lu Feng, but why was he still not satisfied? "I'll ask him," Zhang Fengxia said angrily. "Don't go. Go and ask, can he admit it? Besides, even if he admits it, what are you going to do?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked. "Are you sure you have thought about leaving him?" The anger in Zhang Fengxia's heart was suppressed. He was unwilling to leave. From the time when she was pregnant with Miao Miao to now, she had gone through a lot of heartache. Now she felt it was not worth it to leave because of such a small thing. But the feeling of betrayal in her heart was really uncomfortable. Her eyes were red, and she choked and said to the phone, "Why would he do this? She loves him so much that she is willing to turn against her family and go to the United States to have a child for him, but now he is repaying her in this way." Compared with Zhang Fengxia's excitement, Zhang Xiaoyan seemed a bit numb. From the time he was beaten to now, she felt that Lu Feng had gotten better, but looking back, he had not changed at all. It's useless to argue. We need someone to take care of her. In fact, after the new year, I have been thinking that instead of causing trouble outside, it is better to let Su Yorong come in. She is different from me. Zhang Xiaoyan paused. He said at once, "I'm helpless. You love her, but we can't control it. But the problem is to let her in, then there are 3 people. This matter." Zhang Fengxia was a little embarrassed. The 2 people had already made the family lose face. Now 3 people? Of course Zhang Fengxia knew that someone like Su Yorong could control him, but what if he entered this house and not only controlled Lu Feng, but also both of them? The 2 communicated on the phone for a long time, and now they were faced with 2 choices. If they wanted to control Lu Feng, they had to bring Su Yorong in, otherwise they would have to pretend to be deaf and mute in the future and pretend they couldn't see some things. Can't listen. As for the last way, it is nothing more than leaving, but Zhang Fengxia is unwilling to leave. Now she is beginning to doubt herself. What is it about Lu Feng that attracts her? Maybe this is the legendary saying that if men are not bad, women will not love them? After Zhang Fengxia calmed down, she agreed to the plan. Now she could only hope that Su Yorong would join in to make the family more stable. At around 9 o'clock in the evening, Zhang Xiaoyan called Su Yorong. "I've told you, you don't have to pay back the 20 million, This money can be regarded as my end, Su Yorong said into the phone. The reason I called this time was not about money, but about something to do with Lu Fang. Zhang Xiaoyan explained the matter briefly. How could he do this? Su Yorong looked a little surprised and said, but it's not convenient for me to take care of it now. I should talk to him about this kind of thing. He has a family, so he can't do this kind of thing. You two team up to beat him up. It's not about fighting. There is really nothing we can do against him, Zhang Xiaoyan said, looking particularly decadent. You two are too cowardly. How can you be so angry? Why? Just because you have no money? You can't control him. Su Yorong looked a little angry and said, if I were you, since I am a part of the family, and I have a share of the company's equity. How can I have the nerve to ask for someone else's company? Zhang Xiaoyan said helplessly, I don't know how to manage a company. You don't need to manage it. Register a company and directly control Hurricane Capital. The new company will have a board of directors, and then sign a concerted action agreement. As long as you sign some terms within the framework, you don't have to control the company, as long as there are restrictions in the terms. Just ability, Su Yorong said into the phone. In this way, the company becomes his family's instead of his own. But how could he be willing to sign such an agreement? Zhang Xiaoyan said helplessly. Whether it's business behavior or emotional behavior, it's nothing more than comparing who is cruel and who dares to lose the other. You surrendered yourself before declaring war. Don't people like each other when they see each other outside? Men, just like that beast same, you have to tame him. Su Yorong educated him. You two stand up to him. I promise you, Lu Feng will never be willing to lose you two. When Zhang Xiaoyan heard this suggestion, she was also muttering in her heart, what if he was so determined that he was willing to abandon the two of them? Wouldn't Su Yorong take advantage of the situation and get in when the time comes? The two communicated for a while, and Zhang Xiaoyan said slowly, I have always felt that it is not easy for you to be alone. During this time, Fengxia and I have been thinking about this matter. In any case, we already have children. If you have to, disowning father and son will cause trouble in the future. Fengxia and I do not object to you entering this home, but he objects very strongly. Really? Su Yorong was a little excited and quickly said her thanks. These days, she was already prepared to raise her children alone. As long as they both accept it, Lu Feng won't have much of a problem. The child has been born, and he can't accept it even if he wants to. I have always felt that a family should be like a family. As long as we sisters work together, he can conquer even Mount Everest, let alone Lu Feng. Su Yorong Zixan said, leave that girl to me. When will you come back? At the end of April. It will take more than a month. It will be very boring to stay here, Zhang Xiaoyan replied. Then when you return, fly directly to Xiangjiang River. Then the three of us will get together. Only when people are united can we think in one place and work hard in one place. After hanging up the phone, Su Yorong stood up and let out a long sigh of relief. Things were finally moving in the direction she hoped for. As for whether she could subdue Lu Feng, she wasn't very sure. After all, the three of them combined did not touch Lu Feng's core interests. It was just feelings and the company that combined to put pressure on him. Su Yorong really wanted to unite and deal with Lu Feng this time, otherwise the family would never be peaceful. She hoped that Lu Feng would focus on work. If the three women in the family could control Lu Feng enough, then she was also very happy to see this happen. But for her now, Lu Junjun was out of control. Unlike Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia, Su Yorong had plenty of means. She first called a group of people and finally hired 2 gangsters for 10,000 yuan and asked them to follow Lu Feng from tomorrow and find Lu Junjun's current residence. The next day, Lu Feng went to the company for a meeting. At noon, he received a call from Lu Junjun, hoping to have dinner with her. At around 1 o'clock at noon, Lu Junjun took a taxi to a Western restaurant not far from the company. Mr. Lu, I miss you so much, can you not go back tonight, Lu Junjun said coquettishly, pulling Lu Feng's arm when they met. Lu Feng looked at her and said, you can't treat me as everything to you. You should find something to do on your own and go back to Xiangjiang in a few days. Then I miss you, what should I do? Lu Junjun accompanied Lu Feng into the restaurant and suggested, how about this, I will be your secretary, and I will also be looking for a job. Be your own secretary? Lu Feng looked at her and smiled. With her little academic qualifications, she was probably not qualified for the position of secretary. Lu Feng smiled and said nothing, and asked the waiter to open a private room. He had already sensed this woman's thoughts and had an idea in his heart. Retreat. As the food was served, Lu Feng ordered a bottle of red wine and said, I have a check here, which is the remuneration for your previous labor and some living expenses I gave you. Now is the time when spring flowers are blooming. Go out for a walk, I'm busy with work recently, and I'm going to Europe in a while, and we'll see you in Europe then. Lu Junjun took the check and saw 200,000 written on it. A smile suddenly appeared on her face and she said, then which country in Europe should I wait for you? Let's go to France, it's more romantic there. Lu Feng picked up the wine glass and said, I'll go there when I'm done and I'll bring you back with me. You must go. Can you not go home tonight? Lu Feng was a little tired of being pushed around, so he nodded and agreed that he could go over and stay for a while. After lunch, Lu Feng returned to the company to continue the meeting and make adjustments according to the current situation of the mobile phone market. The sales of Giddy mobile phones fell somewhat last month and the market competition was quite fierce. In the evening, Lu Feng drove to the hotel and came out of the hotel at 10 o'clock in the evening. Two people were watching outside the hotel door and reported the situation to Su Yurong in time. At 11 o'clock in the evening, two gangsters entered the hotel, knocked on Lu Junjun's door, and asked her to answer the phone. You don't need to know who I am. I'm only telling you one thing now. Do your part and don't think too much about other things. Of course, if you think you can reach the sky in one step, you can try it, but I can tell you what will happen. Su Yurong said gloomily, you will die ugly. Lu Junjun was surrounded by two gangsters. At this moment, she was so frightened that she was trembling while looking at her mobile phone. Now you make your choice. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I will never be with Mr. Lu again, and I will never pester him again. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1299. Latest website. Su Yurong hung up the phone after hearing her promise. The two gangsters teased Lu Junjun a few times, and then gave her two more words to warn her that she'd better be smarter. Lu Junjun was beaten and hurriedly closed the door. She couldn't recover for a long time. She didn't know who was looking for her, but she made a rough guess in her mind that there were only a few people. At around 8 o'clock in the evening, Lu Junjun called Lu Feng, but no one answered. She finally picked up the phone and told the story in tears, hoping that Lu Feng would help her. But after hearing this, Lu Feng on the other end of the phone asked her to go out to avoid the limelight and quickly book a ticket to go abroad. He still had something to do, so he hung up the phone without saying a few words. Lu Feng was sitting in the living room smoking a cigarette, throwing his cell phone aside, and secretly wondering who asked someone to slap Lu Junjun. He felt that Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia were unable to do such a thing. After thinking about it for a long time, there was no result, so I simply stopped thinking about it. He was just an unimportant person. 2 days later, Lu Junjun applied for a visa to go abroad and flew to Paris. Lu Feng's ears were also a lot clearer. He didn't hear Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia talk about it in the past few days, so Lu Feng didn't take it to heart. The mobile phone market continues to explode. Sales of mobile phones are soaring not only in China but also in the global market. Lu Feng spent 2 months visiting Singapore, Thailand, South Korea, Fuzhou and other countries, and established an overseas business department in early April. This time, drawing lessons from GFN Group, we do not go overseas, but develop an overseas dealer model. Lu Feng is well aware of the current overseas situation and can only give up most of the profits to dealers. As for the price they charge overseas, it depends on their own abilities. Despite fierce competition from many parties throughout April, Giddy still sold 100,000 mobile phones, and it seems to be getting closer to its annual sales target of 1 million units. At the end of April, Zhang Xiaoyan returned to China and landed in Xiangjiang. Zhang Fengxia also found a reason to return to Xiangjiang, and the three women officially met in Xiangjiang. In the evening, in the restaurant of Repulse Bay Villa, Zhang Xiaoyan seemed to be in good condition, sharing her 3-month experience in the United States with the two of them. The doctor said to drink less, so I'll drink tea. Zhang Xiaoyan asked Zhang Fengxia, "How is that girl?" "I don't know, he is very busy during this period. The competition in the mobile phone market is fierce. Due to the explosion of the mobile phone market and the recovery of the semiconductor market, I really don't have much energy to track who is around him." Zhang Fengxia looked a little disappointed. "Road. I heard that the girl had been taken away by him. I took care of it." Su Yurong put down the chopsticks in his hand and said, "We can't expect that there won't be a woman around him. This is unrealistic. I think what's more important to pursue is that he is unwilling to give other women the opportunity to enter the home. In other words, he needs to have his own scruples. To be honest, with his current money and status, no one can stop him from playing outside. I am in the financial circle and I know these men quite well." Su Yurong's meaning was very clear. It was okay to play outside occasionally, but no woman could enter this home. Even if one day Lu Feng was willing and the woman was willing, they must have the ability to defend themselves from enemies thousands of miles away. To achieve this goal, we need to work together. To put it bluntly, we just have to work hard in one place. The ultimate goal is a family-owned company. There are no conflicts between people, and there are no high or low levels. Relationships, and there will be conflicts among classes and relationships between superior and inferior. If you want equality between people, the best way is to eliminate classes, so that equality can be achieved. The reason why he dares to be so unscrupulous now is because he is unequal to you. What we have to do is to level it out. Relation. Zhang Xiaoyan and Su Yurong agreed with these words. You can never catch a man by grabbing his stomach, but you can definitely catch him by grabbing his wallet. On April 5, Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia returned to Shenzhen. Lu Feng didn't have much to do that day. He attended a meeting of the Post and Telecommunications Enterprise Management Association and went home in the afternoon. During dinner time, Duo was doing homework. This period was a sprint time. Lu Feng spent a lot of money to hire various tutors for tutoring at home, and his performance improvement was quite obvious. After dinner, Lu Feng sat on the sofa and watched the news. He casually asked about Huaxia's situation. Zhang Xiaoyan replied that everything is on track now. Huaxia's market share is still the same, but it has developed several new products this year. Hoping to hit a dozen markets. I saw Su Yurong in Xiangjiang these 2 days. Zhang Xiaoyan said abruptly, it's not easy for her to raise a child by herself. She has plenty of money. Use your kindness elsewhere, Lu Feng said. She gave her 20 million before. We had a chat with her. When she was overseas, she lost a lot of money starting her business, and she was not as rich as you thought. Zhang Fengxia sat on the sofa and ate a grape, and said, I just think she's not a bad person. Anyway, the child belongs to our family and will be a troublesome thing when she grows up. Lu Feng noticed that something was not right between the two of them. He looked at the two of them with some confusion and said, don't listen to her nonsense. I know this person better. She knows how to confuse people all day long and may have some agenda. If we really let her enter this home, it would really be a disaster. Lu Feng told some things about the two people's cooperation before, trying to prove that Su Yorong has a lot of eyes. However, in the eyes of Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia, these words did not exactly show that this family needs someone with a lot of eyes. Otherwise, how can they manage it? This child will be a problem in the future. Since it can be solved now, why should it be left until later? Besides, Su Yorong still has equity in United Securities. If we don't solve the problem now, wouldn't it be a big deal when the children grow up later? Zhang Xiaoyan was the first to ask, this child is originally yours. I think as a man, you still have to take responsibility. Am I not responsible? Lu Feng was angered and stared at Zhang Xiaoyan and said, what will be the consequences if she enters this home? That kind of person only has money in his eyes. If she enters this home, she will definitely be in trouble. So, you don't let her enter this home because you are afraid that she will take your money, Zhang Fengxia asked, you have never considered the relationship or children. You only care about money, so what if you have a relationship with her, what's the difference? Lu Feng turned back to look at Zhang Fengxia. He was suddenly surrounded by these two people. He felt a little unhappy and said, what's wrong with you two? Is it interesting to help her speak and talk back to me? What do you mean by talking back? When did we start to have no qualifications to speak? We are discussing things. In your eyes, as long as this family disobeys you, it is talking back, Zhang Xiaoyan asked. Lu Feng rubbed his face with his hands, feeling indescribably uncomfortable, and said to the two of them, what do you two want to do? Just say it directly. There is no need to quarrel over the past. You can't join forces to bully others. Who bullied people? Who bullied people first? Zhang Fengxia felt aggrieved when she heard this. It was obviously you, Lu Feng, who bullied people first. Her eyes turned red as she spoke, and she choked with sobs, just stare at you. For money, you know how to pick on the weak, you know who loves you and who can't let you go, so you bully them. Who did I bully? Lu Feng looked at the two people with questions on their heads and asked, what on earth did I do to attract lightning strikes and let you two attack me? You know it in your heart. Now we both think that Su Yorong should enter this home. Zhang Xiaoyan stared at Lu Feng with stern eyes, like a tigress fighting to the death. Lu Feng glanced at Zhang Fengxia. It was obvious that the two of them had already discussed it, and it was useless to say anything now. I don't accept it, Lu Feng said solemnly. Don't accept it? Then let's leave. Anyway, there are no restrictions now. We will take the children and leave. After Zhang Xiaoyan said that, she went directly upstairs and asked Duo to pack her things and move out overnight. Zhang Fengxia also had a determined look on her face and asked the nanny to carry Miao Miao into the car and pack her things. What on earth are you two doing? Did you take crazy medicine? Lu Feng looked at the two of them seriously and said hurriedly, is there something that you can't sit down and talk about? What did she say to you two? Give me an opportunity, let me understand it. If you can't come up, just give me an option and force me to agree, right? You know what you did. Zhang Fengxia packed up, carried a bag and walked out without saying a word. After all, Lu Feng did not stop the two of them, and the originally lively house suddenly became empty. In fact, Lu Feng already understood what was going on. It's just that he never thought it was a problem from beginning to end, but now that his two wives and two children have left him, how can he not feel worried? At 10 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng finally called Su Yorong. You do some humming human affairs, okay? You'd rather tear down 10 temples than break up one marriage. You'd better use any dirty tricks to squeeze in, Lu Feng cursed into the phone. Blame me? Who do you have to blame me? Are you asleep, Lu Junjun? Su Yorong asked. Then he's the one you sent, right? Don't worry so much. You are in contact anyway. You have a family, right? Do you think this is respectful to them? You have never respected them, and you have never regarded this family as a family. You always feel that you have enough advantage, at least in front of them. I am superior. So you are unscrupulous and you look down on them. No one cared about this before because no one knew who you belonged to. But if you really want to have a family, you have to abide by the rules of the family. They say think in their shoes. If they are outside, what do you think about playing like this? Latest website.